Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with our Sentinel, our new character, Dr. Cyclone, who has gotten the ability to fly, and we are doing missions for Mr. Davies. And we're mostly fighting Clockworks, and we'll continue to do that. And as we go today, we are going to talk about some more role-playing game horror stories. This comes from the Reddit RPG Horror Stories. I just troll around there every once in a while, see if there's anything cool that we can talk about, and I found three stories. One will probably take most of the time, so we'll start with that one, and then I'll get to the other two if time permits. So this is a story about someone who created a Circle of Dragons druid. And his character has the ability to wild shape, I guess, into a dragon or I don't know what. And with the wild shape came a bunch of temporary hit points, I believe, like a sick number of temporary hit points. And I guess there was another druid in the party. And wow, we're getting hammered here. So there was another druid in the party, and the uh-oh. Yeah, this is a bit much for a level 4 character. See if we can do a little more damage here and pull this out. I might need to flee. There we go. Okay, that helps a little bit. Alright, we're down to one enemy. So he's a Circle of Dragons druid. The only reason I bring this up is because there's no such thing except in a third-party supplement, right? It's like, it's homebrew. It's not official D&D. And he's also playing with, apparently, the 2014 version of Wild Shape, which is insanely overpowered, and it was nerfed. And but he's playing with the 2024 version of this spell called Armor of Agathis, which, if you're not familiar with it, it works in Champion's terms like a damage shield. That is, you put this armor on, and when you get hit, it does damage to the guys that hit you. And so they were fighting these werewolves, and there were like, I think they were 8th level, something like that. And the werewolves had like, there were 3 of them, and each did 2 attacks per round. So this druid, like, he went first, he wild shaped, he armored of Agathis. I don't know how he did them both together, but let's assume that that was legal. And so now he's got a damage shield on him that works on, basically it does damage back to you every time that you hit it, right? So these werewolves made 2 attacks per round, and it did like 20 damage per hit. So basically he got hit 6 times and did 120 damage in a single round, which is insanely high in Dungeons & Dragons. Your typical fighter making 2 attacks will maybe do 20 damage. And he had so many hit points that even though they did like 100 hit points to him, he didn't die, right? He still had like, he had lost his temporary hit points, but he still had a whole bunch of other hit points. And I remember the one guy who plays the weird scientist in my Deadlands game, he had a druid, I don't remember which type of druid, that could wild shape, and when I was a player, he turned into a bear or something. Like the amount of hit points he could come up with, it was just insane. And the way it worked was he took all this damage. It looked like he was dying, and then he turned into a bear, and suddenly he had all these hit points left. And I don't know, like he did this at like 3rd level, 4th level or something, when the rest of us didn't have that many hit points, and it just seemed really ridiculous. And when I mentioned it to my colleague at work who plays D&D a lot, he was like, "Oh yeah, that is very overpowered." I think it was Circle of the Moon Druid. I can't remember which type it was. Whichever type that gets like the best wild shape, that was the type he was playing. I've been wildly over-aggroing here. I keep forgetting I'm not 40th level anymore. And I'm not a scrapper or a stalker. I should be kiting more. Um, so yeah, there was another druid in the party, and the other druid objected and said, "This guy, you did over 100 hit points in a round. You got all these temporary hit points. This is ridiculous. This isn't fair." You know, he objected to it. So this was done online, and the guy like quit their Discord server. And I guess the DM contacted him and said they would like him back, and so on. So he posts to RPG Horror Stories as if this is a horror story that happened to him. And most of the responses were, dude, you made the horror story because this is overpowered. What you're trying to do is OP. And the druid who complained about it was right to complain about it. But the thing is, like, I see this with players a lot. One of them was talking about, so the one guy said, I guess your GM allowed it. And another one of the players chimed in and said, well, maybe. And maybe this is a very experienced player. We got some salvage. Oh, speaking of that, I got to show you my updates to the base. I finally organized things, and I'll show you that when we get out. I'll try to remember. Somebody remind me. Not that you guys can. Yeah, so you have he said, what if you have a new-ish GM, right? A new game master, or a game master who's used to 2014 D&D is not used to 2024, doesn't remember, doesn't understand how the changes were made, right? Because they made it so that if you get temporary hit points and then you turn on Armor of Agathis, the temporary hit points all go away because people were doing stuff like this and it was overpowered. Apparently. I say apparently. I was just reading what they wrote on this Reddit. I do not know what they've done to Armor of Agathis myself because I don't play D&D anymore. But what they claimed was a bunch of changes were made and the spells that used to synergize don't synergize that way anymore on purpose. And this player went ahead and by mixing and matching editions of the game, we talked about that in a previous video, right? By mixing and matching editions of the game, this player became wildly overpowered. And so anyway, what this one guy said is maybe the GM allowed it. I mean, presumably they said yes to it, but the GM may not have had the experience, the understanding, the facility with the rules to understand just what a min-maxy power gamey thing this is, right? So maybe they allowed it and knew it was power gamey, and maybe they didn't. I mean, I got blindsided a lot in Champions with stuff that was wildly OP, and after it's in the game, it's hard to take it out, right? Once players have it, it's really hard to get them to not be mad when you nerf it or ban it or change how you're interpreting it, right? I even said this to my best friend when he was making up his own wizard character, his own sorcerer subclass. As I'll never do that again. I'll never allow him to homebrew anything again. And even then, before the negative stuff happened, I said to him that I was like, he wanted to do something. I said, I think that might be overpowered. And he said, well, it's fine. If it's overpowered, I'll just change it. And I was like, are you going to change it? He was like, yeah, of course. I don't want to be OP. I'm like, yeah, but you and I both know after you've had something for 3 or 4 adventures or sessions or whatever, you're not going to want to give it up, right? I'm going to now, every time something was overpowered, I couldn't just say to him, dude, I think it's overpowered, you need to change it. He would argue with me. He never admitted anything he did was overpowered, even though some of it was wildly OP. And I had to sit there and justify to him why I, as GM, thought it was OP, right? He was not willing, right? And in the future, what I would say is, if you want to homebrew or anything, you have to agree to the following proviso, and I want it in writing with your signature. I want it in writing. I want evidence that you agreed to it. I would say this to anybody, right? But especially him. That if, as a GM, I decide something is OP, you must accept that decision without argument. I don't want to have the argument. If I decide something is OP and I tell you it's OP, you need to change it, you change it. And you're agreeing to that by me allowing you to do a homebrew. I will not agree to it under any other circumstances. I'm not going to have an argument with you. I'm not going to fight with you about it. You're going to accept my judgment, or you're not having a homebrew, right? I won't allow homebrews, but If I were to, that is what I would say. Here, now we gotta find Clockworks. Where are they around here? I feel like they were up north. Maybe I'm wrong. When I see the area where I used to see them, I'll notice it. Um, so yeah. Um, oh, and they changed a bunch of stuff too because of all this other story arc. Because I thought they used to be around this parking lot. Oh, we'll keep looking. Yeah, there we go. Rooftops. Um, so yeah, I mean, I had this experience with my best friend. He created something that on first blush didn't seem too powerful. And then it started looking too powerful to me, but he didn't want to believe me. And then it took one of the other players coming in, and I wish I'd heard the whole conversation because we took a break. And when I came back, it took me a little long. I think I made some tea or something. When we came back, I was a minute or two late for it, and the two of them were back in the Discord, and they were arguing. And the guy who plays the mad scientist in our Deadlands game and played that druid, ironically enough, was talking to my best friend saying, well, wait a minute, you can do this and this and this. Isn't that a little OP? And my best friend was like, no, it's not OP. And it had to do with him converting his sorcery points. It had to do with him, because sorcerers can convert sorcery points into spell slots, I guess, right? It had to do with the fact that his special homebrew ability allowed him to regain sorcery points on a short rest. And I think he was regaining most or all of them. On the initial argument he gave to me that I don't get a lot of sorcery points. The thing is, you get more and more as you level, right? And so, yes, at second or third level, this power wasn't that bad because he was just getting a sorcery point back or two. But when you get to like 7th level or 10th level and he's getting 5 or 10 sorcery points back, it starts to get a little ridiculous. And so the other player just kind of objected to it and said, this seems a little OP to me. And my best friend was like, oh, okay, maybe we should adjust this. What if I get half as many points back of whatever the default, whatever we had set as the number? He said, I'll do half. Does that sound reasonable? And we said, okay, and that's what he did from then on. Half of whatever amount we had originally said, and I don't remember if it was half of the total or half of half, like whether he'd said I get back half and now it's a quarter. I don't remember exactly what we did, but yeah, he wasn't going to listen to me about it, right? And it was the same way in Champions when we were kids. Like if I thought something was OP, like once he had it, taking it away from him, it was like a dog with a bone, or a chew toy, his favorite chew toy. You're not going to get that chew toy away from him. And so, and it's not just my best friend. Like it's true for anybody. I now believe that the abilities that they let you have in Savage Worlds that allow you to cast basically any spell on your spell list, which is essentially any spell in the game. Most of the spell lists have 80 to 90% of the spells in the game on their list, right? You have almost all of them, and then there are just a few that you don't have. Those abilities, those edges or abilities, are wildly overpowered, and I now realize, having run through it, this is letting them have, as I've said before, the maxed out version of +2 advantage version of variable power pool that I always banned from my Champions games, right? But I did not realize that that's what it was going to amount to when it started, right? Because I was new to running Savage Worlds, and it was one of their edges. Like you assume the game is balanced, and maybe it is balanced, but I think it's ridiculous. And I think it also makes it very hard as a GM for me to challenge the players because they can pull up any spell in the game and just deal with it, right? Just fix the challenge, deal with the challenge, but using whatever spell will fix their problem without having to actually think their way out of the situation. And if I wanted them to think their way out of the situation, they don't. And also, it's really hard for me to prepare because they're almost always pulling out spells that I didn't even realize were in the book, kind of stuff. again, this isn't Champions. I don't know it as well as I know Champions. And so, yeah, I didn't, you could say, well, your GM presumably wanted to let you get Gadgeteer. Well, it's in the game and I didn't know enough to ban it, right? Or put severe restrictions on it, right? Like instead of -2 to the roll, -2 times the rank, right? So -2 for novice spells, -4 for season spells, -6 for veteran spells, -8, etc. So that they could pull any weak spell they want out of their bag of tricks, but they're not going to be pulling really powerful spells out of their bag of tricks because it would be too many penalties, right? Or it's a multi-action on top of that or something like that. Um, but unfortunately, I did not realize how oh, I didn't want to do that. I had grabbed the wrong thing. I wanted to do that. I didn't realize how, frankly, OP this was, and how it's not even overpowered. It's game breaky. It's worse than overpowered, right? There's two different things. Overpowered abilities end up unfair to players and make things too easy, but game breaking abilities are abilities that will wreck whole scenarios because they allow you to bypass side plots. They allow you to skip whole chapters of plot point campaigns, which is literally my players did. They missed out on so much in Horror at Headstone Hill because they employed game-breaking powers. Also, those game-breaking powers came about through Gadgeteering and the Huckster ability that allows you to cast any spell in the game. Because they didn't have those spells on themselves. But when they realized, hey, we could break the game by casting these spells, they did it. Now, they weren't trying to break the game, but when they realized, hey, we could solve this problem by just casting a spell and mind reading or whatever, they did that. And, I mean, to some degree, you can't blame them. It's in character, right? If the characters recognize that they can avoid risking their lives by doing something like casting a spell, why wouldn't they do it? It's in character, but to me, that's kind of game breaky because then it's like spoilers, right? You're avoiding the storyline and you're casting a spell instead. And again, if the players want to do that, okay, well, if all the players agree to it, maybe. But I'm not convinced all the players do agree to it. And I know at least one of them doesn't, because they said so in the anonymous survey I gave them. Right? So, but if your GM is new, it's possible that the GM might not realize that this stuff is going to be game breaking. It might not realize that this stuff is going to be spoilerish. Might not realize how much damage could be done to their campaign by you doing whatever this is that they've allowed, right? And just like me with my best friend, your default as a GM is you want to please the players. And so your players asked you to do this, so you want to make them happy, and you say okay, right? But then it turns out that maybe you shouldn't have said okay because this thing is more powerful than you realized it was going to be. And again, once the player has these abilities, it's very hard to take them away. I'm just trying to get to level 5 so that when we get to King's Row, we don't get pounded. We're going to get pounded anyway, but hopefully a little less than we will if we're 4th level, because everything in King's Row is level 5 and above. Alright, I'm not going to hit him with the knockback there because I don't want to blow him back into his buddies. This should level us, I think, this guy, because he's yellow. Yep, there we go. We have leveled up. Was that me, or was that kind of a... It didn't... I felt like it didn't make all the special effects it usually does. That's kind of weird. Is it because I have the backpack on? I'm gonna have to watch that back and look at it, and watch back the first episode. I didn't think it lacked special effects in the first episode. All right, here we go. Another level, and because we took flight, we don't really have to slot that, at least not yet. We can add more slots. Don't think I need to go for health yet. We're going to do that, and let's do that. I'm not doing twin shot. I don't like twin shot. I will instead go to King's Row. But I do need to remember to try and... I didn't do hollows with our last character, so I want to try to remember to do the hollows with this character. But first, we're going to go to King's Row and do the detective. There we go. Let's try to get that all on one line. Just makes it easier to read. So yeah, I mean, you know, the obvious solution to this RPG horror story is don't make overpowered characters that break the game. And if the GM comes to you and tells you this power is breaking the game, you're more powerful than the other players, and it's not fair to the other players, or you're giving your character abilities that are making it hard for me to surprise your party and do cool, fun things with your group, then you darn well should listen to the GM. And take the GM's word for it, and trust your GM. That your GM isn't trying to screw you and your character, right? That's not my goal with my best friend. I wasn't trying to screw his sorcerer. I was trying to make sure that his sorcerer wasn't overpowered compared to the rest of the PCs. Now, all the PCs were overpowered, period. So there is that, but Archon, that's a council guy. The Lost. Hellions. We haven't fought Hellions, so let's try Hellions. I mean, we fought them a little bit, but we haven't had a mission against them, so let's do Hellions for now. And we gotta be careful here because this is King's Row and everything's purple. Or worse. Deep purple. So yeah. I think, I don't know if I mentioned this. I think I mentioned this. I would like to play, I started saying this, I would like to play City of Heroes. Or not City of Heroes, Champions using City of Heroes. I don't know if I could convince my best friend. I think I said, I started saying this in the last episode, and I don't know that I finished. I don't know that I convinced my best friend. I'll be able to convince my best friend to do it because he's going to want to play some edition other than 4th edition. He's going to want to play 6th or whatever because it's the newest edition. And he's going to argue with me until he turns blue in the face, until he argues my ears off that I should switch editions, especially when he finds out there is a bare bones Foundry module for 6th edition champions. How many times am I going to miss in a row? Normally I actually do this, right? Get over here. Yeah. I normally don't watch hit rolls all the time. We've got it up here. He likes the newest and latest and greatest of everything, and so he probably will try to talk my ear off as to why we should be doing 6th edition champions instead of 4th. But I will not GM anything other than 4th. I'll say to him, you GM, if he wants to do 6th. But I would be happy to play champions, and I would love to run it, and there would be clockworks and stuff like that. So what I was going to say, I think last episode, and I'm not sure if I got through it because I think I got distracted. I don't know what he would think of it, right? I don't know if he would say, hey, it'd be really cool to play in Paragon City Champions and to fight Hellions and stuff and do things like the Bonefire arc, or if he'd be like, oh, that's boring, you should make up something different. I don't know. I don't know what he would say about it, to be honest. So we're looking for Sumerian. I don't know why I did that. We're looking for Sumerian relics. I was glancing at the icon, this thing, and I don't know why for some reason I clicked it. Sorry, forgot to zoom in. This character I'm really enjoying. So far, not playing super different from a scrapper because A, I keep forgetting to back up and kite things, and B, yeah, he doesn't have a lot of powers yet, so at low level, characters don't play that differently from each other. It's when you get into high level that they start doing that. If we were a stalker, I don't think we'd even have we'd have hide, but we wouldn't even have assassin strike yet, right? Which is a signature power for the AT. So yeah, but in Champions, the reason I brought up Champions is in Champions, nobody can blindside me with overpowered stuff. I know that game backwards, forwards, and inside out. I know all the tricks. I saw them all done. I saw them all break games. I saw them all be abusive. I know exactly what players can do to abuse the game, and I just ban it. Right? There's a reason why when I took over as permanent GM, I had like a 4 or 5 page single space type document, dot matrix printed because that's all I had, of house rules. And I remember when I handed it out to them, the one player just laughing and saying, oh, Scrapperlock has pre-banned all the abusive stuff, right? All the stuff that some of them were asking about. Can we do this? Can we do that? And then when we switched to 4th edition Champions, I had another set of house rules that were designed to make 4th edition play a little more like 2nd edition, because I like 2nd edition better in a lot of ways. But I always remember there were a number of places in the Champions rules where it said, under normal circumstances this is not allowed, but the GM may with excellent justification. And unless under normal circumstances this is not allowed unless the GM gives special permission, right? And I just in my house rules I referred to that statement and said the GM will not ever give special permission to do. Like, I'm not allowing this. Skills as powers, no, ever. I don't allow it. Because it's an exploit. So I don't allow skills as powers. Right? And the GM may allow you to take this or may allow you to take that. This one guy's name was Leonard, was laughing at it because, like, basically he said it looks like Scrapper went through the rules, found every instance of the GM may allow, and just said no. That's not true. It wasn't true. There were certainly things I did allow. But the abusive stuff, I went through and said, no, you can't do it. I banned time travel. I said you can't travel into your own time. We're using the James P. Hogan Proteus operation system, where if you go back in time or forward in time, you automatically go to an alternate dimension, because that makes sense to me and it works really well. So you cannot go back into your own past, and you cannot do clairvoyance to see precognition and retrocognition to see what happened in your own past or what will happen in your own future. Like, that's just self-evidently bad to allow as a GM in a game. It works fine in novels and movies because the writer controls everything, right? But in a role-playing game, the GM doesn't control everything. He can't control what the players do, and so I can't show you the future because I don't know what you're going to do. A writer can do it. I can't as a GM, right? Without completely railroading the entire adventure. So, and I remember the one GM saying, the unwritten commandment of champions is, thou shalt not have powers that cause thy speed to change in the middle of a combat turn, because calculating what happens when your speed changes in the middle of a combat turn is a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare. You don't want to allow it as a GM. And he was like, never, ever, ever, ever allow anybody to take a speed drain or a speed boost that happens in combat. If they want to do it outside of combat, fine, but not in combat. Because it's just a mess, right? It can do it. They tell you how to calculate it and everything and how to figure it out. It's just ugly. Nope. Your speed must be constant throughout a turn. If you want to change speeds on post segment 12, be my guest. But no changing speeds in the middle of combat on phase 3 or 4, because it's just going to mess everything up. Or phase 7 or whatever. So these are just things that an experienced GM learns not to allow, that an inexperienced GM might not. And so you say, well, why'd the GM allow overpowered stuff? Well, maybe he didn't know any better. Right? I remember the good Rob actually made up this bad guy that had... why are we doing this? Because I want to get contacts in this zone. We don't have any. Will he give me one? Oh, he gave me one. Oh, there we go. We'll go to Paula. How much time have we spent in this? 31. Okay, we got time. Still only talking about the first horror story, which is the guy basically told on himself for being the horror story. Anyway, the good Rob, great GM, really smart guy, but he made up a guy with, back in 2nd edition rules with Champions 3 supplement, there was a power called Power Destruction, and it basically permanently removed points of power. So Power Drain would remove, for 5 points, 1d6 of your active power for a period of time, like a certain number of segments, a certain number of phases, maybe one combat turn. And it would slowly come back. And so for 15 points, you could do 3d6 drain. You could drain somebody of 11 points, which is not insignificant. Your 10d6 power becomes 8d6, right? That's a pretty good reduction. Power Destruction costs 15 points per die, but it removed the power points pseudo-permanently. In Champions terms, you recovered them at the same rate that you recover body from a wound, which is like your recovery in power points per week or something like that. I can't remember the exact formula. It's been a while, and they changed it between 2nd and 3rd and 4th editions. So I don't remember. In 2nd edition, I think it was maybe 1 over your recovery per day. And then in 4th edition, I think it was your recovery per week or something like that. So 1 over your recovery, most people had a recovery of on the order of 10 to 12. So if I drained 11 power points from your energy blast from a 60 down, or from a 50 down to a 39, you would only get 1 point back a day, and it would take you a week and a half to get your power back, right? And if the next scenario happened in 3 or 4 days, you're going to be down those power points permanently, right, until the next scenario. So that was a huge problem. And for some reason, he gave this one villain who was mostly a tank. He was called Brick, actually. Or was it Brick? No, I can't remember what it was called. It was something like Brick. Brick was no, yes, Brick, I think so. Or Block? Maybe it was Block. No, Block was a Legion of Superheroes character. I can't remember. It was something like that. But anyway, this guy was really strong, but he had attached to his punch a simultaneous power that would go off that was a 1/2 die 6, I think, or something like that. Speed Destruction. It was sick. And so it destroyed like 1 or 2 or maybe 3 points of speed. Well, you only have 6 speed, 5 speed, something like that. And so, why am I not using this? So this guy could hit you in the middle of combat. Your speed would drop from like 5 to 3, and it's gone for like a week or more, right? And so, yeah, he did that, and then we're like, okay, what's the next phase this guy goes on? because he got hit on, say, 5, and a 6-speed character would normally go on 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. But he got hit on 5. He can't go again on 6 because he's speed 4. A speed 4 character goes on 3, 6, 9, 12. But would he actually go on 6? Because he's already gone twice, and the speed 4 character can only go 4 times a turn. Right? So if he goes on 6, then he can't go again until 12. So we're sitting there with the rulebook figuring it out. We found out, no, he has to wait until 9 to go, and then he can go again, or something like that. Like, we had to sit there and figure it out, right? And I think Rob regretted giving the guy the power because it took us time to go into the book and figure out what happens when speed changes in the middle of combat. Right now, what I gave was a very simplified case. I don't remember, but I do remember us sitting there with the book trying to figure it out, and it was messy. And it was the sort of thing where it's like, I know Rob was like, I wish I hadn't given this guy the power. It was a scary power. It was a powerful power. It was effective the way he wanted it to be effective. But it's just not worth bogging the combat down to figure all that out. Right? It's just too messy. So this is a case of a GM who gave his own villain a power he didn't realize was just not a good power to allow in the game. He never used him again, right? He didn't use that power again. I don't know if he used the villain again, but that power was gone from the sheet if he did use him again, right? Because it's just not a good power to have in the game. It just makes it hard to adjudicate. You don't want things that make the game hard to adjudicate in the middle of the game. That's why I don't like variable power pool where you can change it in the middle of combat. That's why I don't like it that gadgeteering and wizardry and some of these other things can allow players in Savage Worlds to change their trappings and their powers on the fly automatically like that at any point, because it makes the game harder to adjudicate. As the one person said, it adds to the GM's cognitive load. Right? And GMs have enough cognitive load that you shouldn't be adding to it. So, yeah, it's very hard when, as a GM, you're working with a new system or a system that you don't have a lot of facility with, or you've never seen before. And when that happens and you end up with abilities, scores, or powers, or subclasses, or custom things, homebrew, whatever, that you did not realize was going to be this OP. And then, as I say, once that happens, it's extremely hard to take it away from the players. They really don't like it when you do that. Just blow him away. Oh, no, he got me. I missed him. I really like that knockdown. It's super useful. It's a great mez. Great, like, short, brief mez. Ugh, the missing. Man, just a +1 lieutenant is that brutal. One thing I do want to point out, according to the game, the help on the info on the power of this thing, the vulnerability, that does not draw aggro. So if I put it on it, it shouldn't aggro them, right? And then you come in and attack them, and that aggroes them. But they don't notice they've been made vulnerable. They can't, quote unquote, feel it, as it were. I was going to say, did these guys ever miss? But my problem, one of the things that's going to be hard with this character is that his defense ability is resistance and not defense. So he's going to be hit by everything and just have to resist it. We can add 60% to our defenses, so that'll be about, I don't know, 18. So we can get this guy up to probably in the 40%, 45% range for resistance. More than that will have to come from sets, which won't happen until the late 30s or early 40s. So I guess I don't even know if you know, but if you can hear, but the gardeners are here today, making a bunch of noise. So if you hear a bunch of, you know, leaf blower sounds and everything, yeah, apologize. That's them. They put mulch everywhere. They do it as a complete mess, and then they come over and clean it up with their leaf blowers instead of putting it down neatly and not having to clean it out. Getting tons of XP. We might level in this mission. +1s are always tougher than I expect, because I'm so used to fighting +2s and 3s and 4s with my Stalker. Dark Phantom. I like the storm powers. This is pretty cool. I like it. I love the hailstones. That's awesome. Good visual effect, too, of them just crashing down on the person. Really good implementation of the indirect advantage from, at least in terms of the visuals, of the indirect advantage from champions. More missing. I am remembering to put this vulnerability on a little bit more. We need to defeat Rattle and his guards. Oh boy. I'm probably going to die here unless I can escape. Yeah. Too low level for that kind of bullying my way through. Can't do that at this level. So let's continue on RPG Horror Stories. Another person was talking about this idea of like grimdark or whatever, and the idea that a lot of people will act like these sort of really grim, dark, gloomy type of settings where everything is sort of gray and, you know, kind of the whole life sucks, then you die type setting. And what he said was, and I think really profound, he said, bleakness does not equal realism. Right? Yes, sometimes the real world can be rather unpleasant and rather nasty, but just making something bleak in and of itself does not make it realistic. If I could hit these guys occasionally, we'd be doing a little better. There we go. And we've leveled up. That should help us a lot. And that's a little more of a normal looking level up, I think. That should help a lot because a lot of these guys are +1. So now that I'm +1, they are +0, and some of them are -1, which means they're going to go down very quickly. Okay, let's weaken these guys. It seems to automatically hit them. It doesn't seem to have a probability. Like it didn't miss one of them, you know. But it was see if it was random, like if there was a chance to miss. This is COH. You'd get none of them sometimes. But I haven't seen that happen. So it seems like it's auto hit. Let's see. Does it say? Yeah, it doesn't even say that it rolled to hit. So we need evidence and we need to defeat the boss. I guess I should save my inspirations, at least until I fill the tray up, and then if I want different ones I can start using the occasional one. Yeah, we definitely want heals. Let's get rid of that. Almost dinner time, so we're going to do this mission and then we're going to stop. Anyway, so what this guy said was, bleakness does not equal realism, and I completely agree. I'm going to do a pull of the boss here so that his buddies don't all come. Oh, I got to weaken him too. Make him vulnerable to me. That's cool that I pushed him back, but he didn't go flying. Got him. Now his little buddies will come out. So yeah, what he was saying is, look, you don't have to make everything be horrible and say that makes it realistic. Bleakness is not realism, and I agree. And I remember seeing, I saw a chart once of different setting tones, right? And there's sort of the grim, dark stuff, but they had, like, on this one chart, they had grim, and then next to that was bleak. And what the one guy who wrote the chart said is a lot of people call grimdark when they call something grimdark when it's really bleak. Bleak is not the same thing as grim. Right? Grim is kind of things are harder than easy, you know what I mean? But bleak is everything you do isn't even worth it because it's all just going to crap, right? It's all just bad. That's bleak. And bleakness has become very popular in fiction lately, both in novels and in things like movies and TV shows. And it goes in cycles, right? Bleakness was very popular in the 70s, and if you watch the documentary, it's a really cool one, Empire of Dreams, which is about the making of Star Wars, they actually address this and talk about how before Star Wars came along, a lot of the movies that were popular were these sort of grim, bleak kinds of movies. And then Star Wars came along and it was optimistic and it was fun and it was exciting and the bad guys lost and the good guys were heroes. And it kind of ushered in a new era of movie making that included some of this less bleak, more positive, upbeat storytelling. Okay, what are we going to take here? I want everything. Well, not over here, but charge shield increases regeneration and endurance. We don't need that yet. We're not having endurance problems. Conductive shield conducts energy away from it, protecting us against fire, cold, and energy damage, as well as negative energy damage. So like charged armor already gives us energy. This one gives us even more. Are we going to actually have 52% resistance to energy? That would be awesome. There's a heal. Then this is hold defense, mes defense. We're going to want that. But we also want storm cell. I think we're going to wait on storm cell because I can't really put any slots on this stuff yet. Anyway, I think we're going to get our second toggle. I don't know if we're going to be able to run it very much, but we need to get that started. And I like to pick even powers and slot evenly. So let's see, do we have any enhancements that we want to use? This is a recharge. So can we do that? There we go. This is an endurance. We'll do that. There we go. That's also a recharge. That's a resist damage. What? Why can't this take it? Enhanced damage resistance. Oh, okay. I don't. Oh, did I click this? Yeah, I must have clicked that. Okay, resist damage. We'll throw that in there. And that's everything we need. So we'll sell the rest to the vendor. And I think, guys, we're going to stop here. There was another RPG horror story, but it wasn't really that important, so we're not going to bother with that one. Oh, I did want to take you to the base. Let's take you. I'll do that. We'll tour the base. I didn't change a lot, but I just got sick and tired of not knowing where my inventions were. So I went and did the thing I said I wasn't going to do, which is I sorted them all. So I want to show you how I did it. It was a pain in the neck, and actually one of my salvage racks that was completely full, as I was clicking on things, disappeared. And I panicked because I'd lost like 100 salvage, but it was in here, and then I had to move it back. I don't know how to move it back, so I just deleted it. I took the salvage out of it, moved it in here, and then put a new one in here. So here we go. So the salvage is now showing you what's where. So this salvage rack has salvages, white salvage that goes from A to CER, which is ceramic armor plate. But if you're on CIR, which is circuitry or something, circuit board, that's in this one, right? And then down bottom, we have HY, which is what? Hydraulic piston to IN, and then IR, which is iron or something, to mass, and MAS because mathematical proof is here, to silver, and then what? Home Sweet Home badge, tourist badge, I guess because I'm wandering around the base. Simple chemical to Z in here. And then the same thing with the yellow, I to demonic, data to L, M to SO, whatever that is. That's soulbound, and then ST to Z. So this one, what was happening is as I was trying to edit the words, I guess I double clicked on this thing and then somehow that teleported it out to the entrance room. So if you ever see that happen, go look in your entrance room. That might be where it went. So everything else is pretty much the same here. I don't really need this many orange racks because only one of them is full. So this is really just this way for symmetry. But I've got everything organized now and sorted. So when I'm looking for stuff, I can at least know which salvage rack to check to see if I've got it. Now, whether it's going to stay this way, I don't know because some of these are more full than others. And so I might have to move things along. Like this has 93, so if I get like 10 more fortunes, I'm going to have to move the human blood sample down here, and that might bump everything down. And these guys in the back are pretty full. So if I can't move anything past M because they're all maxed, and Silver Phoenix has the rest of the stuff in her vault that didn't fit in here. So anything over like 25 of the same thing in the M to Z range is in Silver Phoenix's vault. This vault, of course, is empty because I only have a few salvage and I don't have any reason to keep it in the vault with this character. The other thing I saw was that the merit vendor you can now put in the base. I don't know how long that's been true. Maybe for a long time and I never noticed it. But we now have one of them right here. What I wish is they had a little auction house terminal that we could click on too, because it's annoying to have to go out of the base to go to the auction house and then come back into the base to craft. But that's where we are, guys. I hope you've enjoyed, and until next time, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes with the Sentinel.